All right, so Chris, before we get into the law firm and everything you've been building up to now, I really want to hear back about the beginning. And can you share some experiences that led you to want to start a law firm?
Yeah, so I have a bit of an unconventional story. I never thought about being a lawyer. I never knew any lawyers growing up. Lawyers seem to be in a different stratosphere than I would ever imagine to be in. And so I started to get serious about school and then got into law school and I got out, I couldn't get a job. And Tyson, I didn't network in college. I just focused so much on academics, not really the relationship part as much. And so I found myself, I couldn't get a job. I was sort of screwed. So I hung a shingle. And this is about 20 years ago. So that's all I've ever known is entrepreneurship and the law. And thankfully things have worked out. But I sort of stumbled, into entrepreneurship, which I think a lot, I can say from my experience, sometimes it's very common, right? I see that a lot is we don't always plan this in law school. Sometimes we just have to sort of figure stuff out and we end up hanging a shingle if we're crazy enough. So that's been generally my crazy path in the
Y-
law.
Yeah, the majority of people that stumble in, I'd say, they end up accidentally building a law firm that is, it's kind of bolted together with different things and it's
Yeah.
not super efficient. And it sounds like you might have kind of turned the corner from that. And, so at what point did you turn that corner or did you build something at the beginning that you thought was, oh, this is going to work out?
No, I mean, I'm going back to, I got out of law school in 2004. The business of law was not even a term I've ever heard. It wasn't really talked about as this is a practice of law. It's not a business. And so I sort of took that as truth. And so Tyson, for about 10 to 15 years, I'll admit, I was kind of like a hack. It wasn't a business, hair was on fire. Thankfully, never got sued. Never had any real quagmires, but skating close as you get busier and busier. Do you know a guy named Ben Glass? Great
Yeah, I
big
love
one.
Ben. Ben's fantastic. And his son Brian is awesome too.
They're both awesome. One day I was having a terrible day. I decided not to go to the office. I was just at a tough point. I was getting burnt out. My wife was like, "What are you doing home? Why are you at work?" She said, "You never take days off." I said, "I have to take a day off." I was just having a very stressful day, and I Googled, I got to get to a conference. I got to get out of my world here in Boston. I got to get outside. So I decided to go to a Ben Glass conference. That was like 6, 7 years ago. That was a that was like a launch to go in a totally separate direction. So I would encourage the audience, I know you're into conferences and events, you put on events. I think the practitioner who's looking to grow has got to get out of the freaking office and grow. Because I had a good practice, super, super, super low seven-figure practice, but it was really me and an assistant. And it was like, this isn't sustainable. And so I'm sort of like a late bloomer. So you asked me, did I have it figured out? Being hell no, right? It's always, a work in progress, but learn from my mistakes. Get started earlier. If you're in law school, if you might go to law school, develop relationships, network. But some of us have success later, and I found traction later, kind of mid-career, 20 years in. So that's been my path of stumbling, failing, and then finally finding my zone, which is like having conversations like this with you. It's like talking about this stuff and geeking out. I love this stuff. But that's been my kind of, again, odd path in this profession.
Well, other than the pattern interrupt of getting out of the office, what was it? What was it at that conference that really shifted your mindset?
I mean, I didn't so many things. It was a fire hose. It was like, wow, mindset. Never really heard that term used in law. We don't talk like that. Time management. What's that? Delegation. Just, you know, drinking from a fire hose and realizing that, oh crap, this makes sense to me. This resonates with me. Like I can jive with this. Like, Ben Glass is just talking about being an authority, like writing a book, doing a newsletter, cultivating a tribe. I was like, I can get with that. Like that's cool. I can really, and so that resonated with me. But whatever the room is you should be in, like I found comfort in that room and joined his mastermind, joined other masterminds, and kind of leveled up as we should, right? As we advance forward. That was a turning point of like I think what I took from Ben Glass Tyson, being a different lawyer. His term is like a renegade lawyer. I just like doing stuff differently and not being a vanilla lawyer, right? Not being that scary, intimidating lawyer to the general public, being like an approachable person who just gets on clients' levels and like meets them where they are. that's what I learned is just like doing things differently and having a, I mean, I go on and on. I just so many lessons I took from him, but you can actually be a happy lawyer. There's such a thing. And I never really like thought that was totally realistic, to be honest with you, until I sort of like a caveman discovering fire.
Yeah. Well, I remember whenever I started practicing, it was about 2010 or it was 2010, and it seemed like there was just a couple of experts out there, and
Yeah,
I would consider Ben one of those experts, right? Where like a true expert, right? He's practicing, but he's also he knows what he's talking about when it comes to the business side of things and the marketing side of things. But there seems to have been an explosion since then of experts, and I
totally.
wonder, like, what is your advice on filtering through all of the noise? Because there's a lot of bad advice that I see, and how do
Yeah.
you filter through all that?
Really good question. There's definitely proliferation, right? There's so much out there to choose from. I think like there has to be a fit. Like I think Ben's great. Ben's probably not great for every single lawyer out there, and he doesn't want to be. That's part of I learned from him. You don't want to be everybody's lawyer. Like you only want to attract a small slice of raving fans who will refer and make your life better, enrich you. So I would encourage you to, everyone, wants to take your money. You have to be careful where you spend your next dollar as you invest in yourself. But you can't go wrong with going out of your comfort zone and finding a good room, a conference, mastermind, but just finding one that kind of speaks to you because they're all different flavors, right? I know this guy Arjan Robbins out in Florida. He and Ben Glass, polar opposites. Ken Hardison, a totally different guy than those guys. There's so many different flavors out there, but it's really incumbent upon the lawyer looking to grow to find that right fit. And if it's working, fantastic. If not, go to a different room, find a different, expert to learn from. But there's no
Yeah.
shortage. You're so right. Almost too much.
All right, so we're going to shift gears drastically, and I'm going to read
Okay.
this quote to you. And it's the wound is the place where the light enters you. The wound is the place where the light enters you. And you sent me a book, Scaling the Wall, One Man's Journey of Healing Childhood Trauma to Find Fulfillment and Success. So when I read the wound is the place where the light enters you, I wonder if that means anything to you.
Yeah, all of us are struggling. All of us. I mean, that's one thing I've done recently, Tyson, is really get real. That's why I wrote that memoir, is to like reveal how effed up I am and flawed. And my career has gotten better by being vulnerable. So, I think you can find purpose through pain. Maybe it sounds cheesy, but like I have found my sweet spot, which is like scaling a practice, growing up a place to help people out, living a good life where the firm engineers the life that my family and I want to live. And so, but if we don't work on those wounds, Tyson, like that's a recipe for disaster. See, I wasn't working on those wounds at all. I was getting in my own way. That's why I literally wrote a book about anger, how it was holding me back professionally, personally, how it threatened to bring me crashing to a bottom. And I didn't want that to happen. So every single person listening, watching this has stuff um, that we all need to work on. I think we have to be honest about the work we have to do. And that book I wrote was about the ugly work. This is like a constant work in progress. There's no like endpoint here, but like figuring out some stuff to have a better marriage, be a better father, be a better leader at my business, a better person. And so I think it's scary when you don't when you don't acknowledge your wounds and you think everything's fine and you as a lawyer you keep trudging forward like no I got this and you burn out. Some guys and gals get into substance abuse. Some get into addictions. It's can be a very depression. It's a very sad field. I mean, as much as I love this field, Tyson, there's, as you know, a lot of sadness, and there's people that resonate with on this podcast, listening right now that have pain, and it's cheesy, but like it's legit. You have to work on those wounds. So that quote really speaks to me. But pain can be a good thing. Like the wounds can be a blessing. Like your challenges in life, your issues can actually be a springboard to greater success. I feel like if you harness that in the right and healthy way.
Tell me about the work that you did to really dig deep to write this book, because I can imagine that writing it was a bit therapeutic, it was a bit painful, my guess as well. But tell me
Yeah.
about the work that you did.
I want to back up. So I was at a mastermind like 4 years ago in the Bahamas, and I was scrolling Facebook, And I got a friend, John Fisher. He runs the Mastermind Experience. Have you come
Love
across?
John.
So do
John's
I.
fantastic. Yes.
He's awesome. He's a good person. I love John. He's a friend. He put on Facebook, hey, check out my friend Neil Goldstein. My friend Neil Goldstein just put out a memoir. I instantly was like, what's that all about? So I clicked on it. I said, I need to write my memoir because Neil's story is very much similar. Growing up, dysfunctional environment, just kind of ugly stuff. And from that point forward, Tyson, I decided I'm going to write a book. I actually wrote the book. I said, oh, I got a book now. This is good. Then I hired a writing coach who was fantastic. She said, you're going to rewrite this sucker because this isn't a book. This is terrible. What are you thinking? I was like, really? She's like, this is terrible. We're going to rewrite this.
Well, plug
And
your writing coach. Oh, let's
her
give her
name
some
is
credit.
Danielle Anderson out of Minnesota. And sometimes, Tyson, we stumble into lucky relationships. And that was the best writing coach I could have hired. Well worth the investment. Because if you're trying to write a book, you can't just like, I was a hack. Like I was a hack lawyer for a while. Then I got coaching, right? Professional coaching. Well, I was a hack writer until I got professional writing coaching. So she was worth every freaking penny, and she kicked my ass up and down the street for like a year, but it was worth it, right? And that's why I sent you my books. I knew we have a wide audience, and there's people in that audience that need to, I believe, get real and share their story if they're comfortable, or at least work on the stuff that we all have. My flavor, people have had it much worse than me. I can only speak to my situation, but that's why I sent you that book, because I was hoping, hopefully, to get into the hands of someone who can get some value from that and hopefully make a difference. Maybe it'll impact them a little bit.
What's the purpose behind the name, or what's the meaning behind the name?
I don't want to give too much. So, well, basically, I was in therapy, and there was a figurine on the wall. He was scaling a wall of rope. He was like just a figurine, and I had a breakthrough in a therapy session. I saw that guy on that wall, that figurine. I said, "That's me. I'm climbing. I'm scaling this wall with this backpack on me of all this stuff that's weighing me down from being the husband, the father I should be, the person I should be and deserve to be." Um, and so that's why I call it scaling the wall, because it sort of hit me like I'm that guy. And I encourage the audience, like I wrote that not to make a buck. I'm sure I'm losing money on the deal, but I wrote it because I had that itch. And so I encourage anyone, please reach out to me. I'm happy to send you a free copy. You can text me. I'm happy to give you my cell number. But I really want to send that. I send that book out, Tyson, all the time because I want people to potentially be impacted in a positive way. That's to me success, right? Like being a PI lawyer is wonderful. I love it, but there's got to be something more behind that. And that to me is trying to make an impact. Just today I was at a Massachusetts Bar Association talking to law students, just trying to pay it forward a little bit and trying to share, my journey of struggle and how with time we kind of slowly figure some stuff out and get traction and try to do my best to help people out.
How long was the process to from like that moment and then when and maybe this isn't the right way of putting it, but to when the load was lightened? Because maybe the load is never lightened, and maybe you just have tools to deal with it. But how long did that process take though?
Of like healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I met my wife, and she was like, so she, like me, comes from an alcoholic background. So she and I really hit it off quick. Like, I was like, this woman gets me. I can get down with her. Like, she's really cool. And so I fell in love with her, and then we got married. We have two kids. But she would put a mirror in front of my face, Tyson, and be like, you're angry. You need to work on stuff. You have no idea what you have to work with. You don't even know it. Because I didn't. I thought everything was okay. But when you have a partner who holds you accountable, you either can do the work or lose that partner. And I didn't want to lose my partner.
Well, let's stick on that for a second because I think the reactions could be one of a few things, right? Someone holds up the mirror and you push back and say, "No, you're the problem."
Right.
They hold up the mirror. You can say, "Okay, you're right. I need to do the problem. I need to fix myself." Or maybe a third one is like you just no, I just ignore, just tune everything out, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder when she first started to hold up that mirror, what your reaction was like.
What are you talking about? You don't know what you don't know. I was like, I got my stuff together. I'm a lawyer. I got a business. I've made it out of a dysfunctional environment. I've succeeded when I should have failed. Like, what are you talking about? She's like, no, dude, like you're screwed up. Like, love you, but you gotta talk to someone. And so my book chronicles my failed attempts at finding that right therapist. So we go back to that theme we've talked about, it's finding that right fit, right? With a business coach, a writing coach, with a therapist. In my situation, I need to find, the right therapist that could really understand me, again, jive with me. And he was my contemporary, my age, and we hit it off. But it took me a long time. I went through like 4 or 5 therapists. My wife is like, dude, you got to stick with someone at some point. I was like, I'm trying. So for anyone who's interested in therapy or, trying therapy, I personally have found it helpful, but whatever it takes for you to find that peace, because I think that's what we all want is peace. And just like, because this profession, I know, everyone listening knows it's hard as hell. I was talking about this earlier at this bar association meeting. It'll erode you if you're not careful. There's a lot of lawyers as we speak here, you and I, are being eroded by the profession. It can be an ugly profession sometimes. So to me, I didn't want to be eroded. So I didn't want to lose my wife. And my book chronicles my father's, total self-destructive path, like going from literally a high-level executive to a panhandler, which I witnessed as a kid. So I had all this scar tissue, but I didn't even know what I thought. Like, yeah, I'm screwed up, but I'm not like that bad. I'm fine. But my wife was like, no, like it's time to talk to someone. So I did that. And so, but again, I was a late bloomer. I was like 40 when I was, having that epiphany of you can be, of having a lighter life, of not being so weighed down by this crap. You don't have to live life encumbered any longer. So once I realized that I kind of made it out, that my dad would be proud, I was like, okay. And Tyson, I started crying in this shrink's office because it hit me this profound like lightness, like, oh my God, like you've made it. You can now, stop being so angry and bitter towards the world. Because I would fight defense lawyers, I would want to poke a fight with strangers, like kind of crazy stuff. Now I meditate, now now I'm like a different dude, but like long, ugly road of work, man.
Yeah. Did you, before she held the mirror up, did you start to notice this stuff yourself and you were ignoring it, or is this something that you didn't know was happening?
A little bit of both, somewhere in the middle, maybe. Like I knew I had stuff going on, but it's like, hey, I went to law school. Like I did pretty good. We're doing okay here. We hung a shingle. We got clients. We got a business. Like, no, everything's cool. Yeah, but that was masking like the reality. That's what I wrote about in the book. Is on the outside I look like successful. On the inside I was like a failure. Um, I wrote a lot. The challenging thing in that book was not telling other people's stories who were involved in the story because it's not fair. But at the same time, telling your story accurately. So that book, I had to talk honestly about life experiences that don't share other people's story, but shares my story. Again, that involves other people. So many painful decisions. Cried a lot during the writing, as you mentioned, and as you assumed correctly. Yes, there was crying, and um, but it's really amazing what the book has done to open up doors is of opportunities to impact kids. That's my kind of gets me going is like talking to kids who've been growing up in alcohol environments and sharing and just super humbled that I didn't screw up. But again, this is like constant work, man. I meditate every day. Like I had to put the work in. It's so hard. It's so hard.
I don't know if this is a fair question, so tell me if it's not. Actually, I'm going to ask it a different way because I don't want to put you on a spot. But
I don't mind.
do you would you recommend that if you're married that both of you go to see a therapist?
Perhaps. I think it depends. A very lawyer answer. I think it depends, right? Um, it was I gained great, like I said, traction from it. But marriage is hard. Like having kids is hard, and the whole deal is super hard. But I think it's worth it. But yeah, 100%. Like I don't see why not. Like my wife had done some stuff independently before she met me, on her own self with therapy, and she got great results. But 100%, I think there's a big benefit in that. Instead of just like maintaining the status quo of self-destructive behavior, because again, we both know there's a lot of lawyers that are self-destructive and maybe don't even know it. That's why Tyson, like, I love this profession, but it can be nasty. It can be tough on us. We put so much weight on us, and but then so I was that guy. I almost thought it was like a badge of honor. It's like, I can be like a prick, and like that's like fighting for my clients, advocating well, but no, it's like kind of it's not really effective advocacy because you're not seeing clearly. You're so like seeing red all the time. And I wasn't going to people punching them in the face and like stuff like that, but it was like it was definitely like towing the line with defense counsel with situations I could have handled a lot differently, you know, but yeah.
So I give you an experience I had last year, and I got an email from an attorney. We had named the wrong defendant. Okay, it was one of those things where it was the entity name was identical, but there was like
Oh,
one little bitty
so
thing.
annoying.
Right, right. So, but I got an email, and then I sent a very nice response, and then it went from a level of one, and her response to me was like a 10.
Mm.
Okay. And I'm thinking, and I swear to you, I looked up her email to see if maybe she and I had had some sort of run-in before that I had like pissed her off.
Oh
And
man.
I'm like never I'd never spoken to the person before. It was such an irrational response to my email. I couldn't understand it. So and the reason I'm bringing this up is, have you since had run-ins with other attorneys that were so used to being the asshole that they're treating you a certain way until they start to realize that there's a new Chris?
Yeah, but just going back to your example, like she wasn't mad at you, right? Like you had nothing to do
Yeah.
with that her issue that day. You were just the object of scorn for some misplaced anger. It wasn't you at all. But it sounds like you didn't take the bait. See, I would have
Hell
like
no, I didn't.
I would have salivated to take that bait years ago, like, oh, you want to fight? Like, okay, like screw you. But like that to me sounds like an angry, unhappy lawyer, I'm sorry to say. And it sounds
Well,
like
you know why I didn't? It was right around this time that I learned that people that are like that, it could be something that's going on in their life, or some people just they get their joy from the reaction. And so
yeah,
so
yeah,
I stopped giving people the reaction is
yeah.
what it was. And
That's
so
so
that was a big
smart.
it was right around that time I learned that. And then so it normally I probably would have really popped off and reacted, but I said,
Yeah.
no, I'm not doing it. Yeah.
Well, but then you confuse people. It's like, oh, he's not pissed. Like, and then you're that's like ninja style disarming someone in a fight. It's like, I'm not gonna swing back. Like, why? Why? You're supposed to. So that's like that's elevated lawyering, right? Like what does it do for your client to get hot at that lawyer? Like, how does that advance your client or yourself in the case? Like nothing. That's just
Nothing.
that's a waste of energy. So, but again, I see. I mean, like, when I get those emails, sometimes I'm like, screw you, but we pause, right? So like, I want to just impress upon the listener, the pause for me was so important. Like learning how to pause and not like fire off a level 45 email to that level 10 email. Like pausing is so important before you react. And when I learned that pause, it was like a child learning a new, life skill. Oh my God, that's amazing. I'm so happy to hear this and learn this. The pause is really important in this profession because you'll be triggered and pissed off by things. You'll have setbacks, right? You're getting punched in the face in this profession. You and I both entrepreneurs, always constantly getting hit in the face, right? But we keep getting up. We resilient. We battle. But I think you have to sort of withstand those blows, but not make it harder than you need to. Like that's why I talk about this weight, shedding this weight of trauma. Yeah, the trauma. This stuff is sticky. It's still, a lot of people listening to this have trauma, right? And it's not going anywhere unless you do that work. I call it like it's very sticky. It sticks around, but sometimes that trauma like cements as you get older. At least for me, it gets hardened and hardened and hardened. It's hard to break that out the older you get. So when you combine being traumatized, being a lawyer, recipe for disaster because you're just like pissed and angry and maladjusted. But I love your example of that email because we all get those emails all the time. And it doesn't have to be an email. It could be exchange at the courthouse, like a rude comment. You're gonna take the bait? That's like the cheap way to go about it. But you didn't. You were like, no, I'm cool. Like, let's just, not a big deal. But I get those emails all the time and I'm almost like, all right, this person is just pissed off at something other than me. That's not my problem. I got enough stuff. I don't need to deal with that person's problem.
Can you give us some other tools that you use? You'd mentioned meditation. What are some other tools you use to keep the calm?
Do you meditate or no?
I had this conversation with a guest earlier.
Uh-huh.
I said I wanted to get better. He said it's not about getting better; it's just about doing it. And I said, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, that's
And so,
smart.
no, I don't. I will start. I have not started, but I will start.
No, it's cool. But like, I'm not a preacher. It's like you should meditate. Like, whatever people just define that space, right? Space to me is a really big word I never really knew about until meditation. So some people like chess, frisbee, swimming, like whatever the hell gives you that space. Because again, I hate to say again, this profession will drag you down, at least guys and gals like me who are very flawed to begin with, walking into the profession. So meditation, I just want to share a quick story on how I started meditating I think may resonate. I was brushing my teeth, and this is kind of when I was like kind of a hack lawyer. I just had a roughshod practice. I was brushing my teeth one night and it occurred to me, holy shit, I think I missed a statute. And so you have to understand, Tyson, I was wrapped up in catastrophe thinking all the time because seeing my father's demise and other people's demise very close to my life, I was always ready for disaster and always primed to think negatively. So I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose my license. I'm gonna get disbarred. The bar board is gonna be all over me. It's over, Chris. And I looked out the window. I'm like, dude, you got to figure this out. Like you are a ball of stress. So I went to my man cave. And I was like, I'm gonna try meditation. I don't know what the hell this is, but I'm gonna try it. So I started doing it, just sitting down with my thoughts. This is like 5 years ago, and ever since I meditate. I haven't meditated yet today because it's been a busy day, but I'm gonna make a point, 10 minutes a day every day to get centered. It does such, my career has really taken off. I think, Tyson, largely in many ways due to meditation because I need to play a bigger game. It's not just all about like being a PI lawyer for me. I need more than that. I need to be lit up more than that. So I find uh, great benefit in having space, carving out space. And so there are times where it occurs to me, I brush my teeth, hey, did I mess that up? But it's not so dire. I'm not going to lose my license. I'm not going to, go Mach 2,000, 10,000 on it. It's like, no, you didn't miss a statute. And frankly, that situation I talked about wasn't even an issue. But that was a blessing because it brought me to meditation. So then I layered in, I think I took this from Ben Glass, journaling. I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for yesterday. And I now write down every day affirmations because I have to work on this or else I can get kind of negative. So like I literally will write Tyson like I am abundant or like I am humble, I am sharing, I am generous, like stuff like that. Because I need to like do this work. It sounds cheesy, but like your brain starts to like believe it, the subconscious and all this stuff really starts to believe it, and then you start your behavior changes. It's been very helpful.
So there is,
We're getting
I've
deep
got
here,
a,
man. We're going super
yeah.
deep.
Well, we're about to go deeper in a second. That's why
Oh,
I'm debating
love it.
whether or not I should go, which way I should go at this point. But I have so I work with Jason Selk and I've got the same I ams, right? That's why I've got all that. And if you would ask me when I first started my career if that was a thing I would ever do, I would say you're out of your mind. That's nonsense, and it really does have an effect. So anyone that is skeptical, I promise you, I was just like you, and it really is effective. Um, so here's where we're gonna go a little deeper.
Great.
I'll tell you another little quick story, and then I'll ask my question. But whenever I was applying to law schools. I remember going around to different booths at different like law school type events and asking like admissions offices, like, hey, what are you looking for? And it was really interesting. And you would read samples that they would show you, and it was all about being a victim. It
Mm,
was a really interesting thing where like, by that I mean like there was always something bad. Talk about this bad thing that happened to you. And I remember when I wrote mine, I couldn't come up with anything bad. I remember thinking
okay.
like everything. I was like, I've had a great life, and it's weird to me like over the last 16 years ago or so where there's been this really push towards this victimhood mindset,
Mm,
but now you're starting to see lots and lots of studies come out about how that can to being stuck in that mindset, how negative that can be on
yeah.
your life. And so even and what's happened, especially with social media, because you have all these people that get attention for like the negative videos, they have like almost like had to like develop this negative thing about themselves that's not true, but they feel like they have to do it and how negative it can be. It makes me think about people like you that could easily have that because you had a really, really tough childhood that you could force yourself to
Yeah.
live in that. Instead, you've forced yourself out of it. So I
Yes.
wonder what your thoughts are on that. Almost like, and I don't know who's pushing or where it's coming from, but on the whole, this trend over the last 15 years or so, where it's about been about victimhood. So I wonder if you have any thoughts on that.
Right, almost like trying to win like the trauma Olympics, like I had it so bad and like all this stuff. Right, I completely hear that. So I I had it hard, but I still had luck, right? So like it's all about how you look at things. Like I was actually pretty lucky. Like if you think about it, like John Morgan, I've had lunch with him. He's become basically like kind of a friend, I guess. Like, and I've learned a lot from him. And he comes from poverty, and he's a billionaire. And so he just sort of like assumed he was going to be successful. And I had, probably many ways easier than him, right? So I bring that up because it's like, what are you a victim or not? Right? It's like I think it's a binary thing. It's like either or. So I didn't want to fail. So I looked at my father's demise and I was like, I can't fail like him. I don't. And so that was like rocket fuel of motivation. And so I wasn't going to be a victim. I couldn't. But I got out of law. So like, in law school, we bury our heads. We're sort of like in a different world. Like we're sort of removed from society. We're so many times isolated. So I came out of law school and I was like, oh man, like I got a lot of stuff I got to deal with. I met my wife and that really helped propel some changes. But yeah, it's easy, Tyson, to be like, oh, I'm a victim, like grew up this way, I should repeat. I statistically should have failed, probably been a dropout, but I think my mom sort of pressed the right buttons on the keyboard there when she was trying to help me program a positive mindset. So I sit here today as a very lucky man, born to the United States, born into a family that, yeah, we had problems, but like a lot of families have problems. So it's all about how you look at it, right? That's why I talked about like mindset and how you think. I was a scarcity lawyer for a while, right? Like if you settle a big case, that's one case that I'm not going to settle. So like I'm almost like jealous of you, like
Yes.
to be real with you. And I was like that for many years. Like he settled a $5 million case, like that guy, you serious? Now it's like, I'm like, good for him. But I'm like, there's a lot of $5 million cases out there, frankly. Like there's so much abundance. So I don't want to go, sorry, I don't want to get too hooey hooey here, but like I was a scarcity lawyer thinking negatively, but I wasn't going to let victimization make me a victim forever. Wasn't going to let that stuff from back in the day tether me forever. That's why I went to therapy, got going, and tried to shed that weight from that backpack scaling that wall. But it's all like a choice we make in terms of what we're going to do. But I know a lot of people suffer. That's why I kind of wrote the book. Is like, and Tyson, the hard thing about the book is like I'm really kind of like naked and exposed. Like, and I'm thinking like, first of all, I'm thinking, who's going to want to read this thing? Like, who the hell cares about Early's situation as a kid and teenage years? Like, who really cares? If anyone takes nothing away from this conversation that you and I are having, I want them to take away to be vulnerable, to embrace to be willing to be vulnerable, because that book is like my ultimate vulnerability, right? When you're vulnerable with your team members, when you walk in the office, you're like, having a tough day. I don't mean like going like crazy here, but like being vulnerable with clients, like, Tyson, when I, meet with a client, I can give them that book. It's like kind of street cred. Like I'm not some lawyer in an ivory tower. I'm on your level and I understand getting over stuff. So it's like, you know, they don't have to hire me, but they're gonna get a lawyer who's, very sober and grounded on feeling very blessed and having overcome some stuff. So I think vulnerability, man, is like a superpower, like legit.
It reminds me of that Brene Brown quote about vulnerability. It's not about winning or losing. It's about having that courage to show up and be seen when we really have no control over the outcome. That's what it reminds me of. And so that's a she. I mean, obviously, Brene Brown talks a lot about vulnerability and everything. And I'm glad
Yeah.
you brought that up because I wanted to know how much in your marketing or when you're dealing with clients, you deal with vulnerability and how you really kind of expose your wounds. So, when it comes to like putting yourself out there in marketing, do you how vulnerable do you get?
I love that question, man. So super quick, I was at a conference like 5 years ago, and this conference speaker got up and he's like, "Hey, share your story." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Share your story. Put a post on social media. Share who you really are as a person." I was like, "Okay." And Tyson, I had never shared. I have friends from back in the day who didn't even know my story. Like my wife, she knows everything, but people close to me didn't even know. So I was like, "All right, like I'll just write about some stuff that happened and I'll put it on social." I was in this dingy hotel room. and I put up this post on Instagram. I woke up and it was like Tyson, a flood of like, holy shit, man. Like this is, I had no idea, Chris. It was like a groundbreaking. I was like, holy smokes. I was at the Atlanta airport. I started to cry because I looked at my phone. I was like, holy smokes. My wife was like, I'm so proud of you for sharing. And then I was like, oh wow. Because like you don't know what you're gonna get. Like when you're naked, right? Like the Brene Brown quote, you don't know what's going to come of it, but you're going to do it. That's strength. That's strong. That's leadership, right? And so I'm sitting there like crying, like putting my hat down so no one sees me, but I'm like, wow. And that Tyson changed everything, right? This goes back to, Ben Glass, who I owe a lot of success, my success to, like teaching me there's a different way to do this thing. I started to share, and that culminated in the book. But like your clients don't care. I see, you and I, Tyson, see all this lawyer marketing that's cringeworthy. It's like, oh man, I got this big settlement. Look at my great review, and like no one gives a shit about that. How are you a human being just like them, and how can you help them? Because they don't care about you as a lawyer; they care about you as a person. When they can understand you as a person, then it's like, oh, Tyson, that's the work he does. I'm gonna refer him in case I trust him. Like I know who I'm dealing with that guy. And so with the book with Scale on the Wall, I sent it to all my new clients. So they literally know who they signed up as their attorney. Like they literally know my story. And if they read, they're like, this guy's a freaking train wreck. I don't want him. That's all good. Like abundance. There's plenty of people who want early. There's plenty of people who don't. And I'm cool with that. Don't try to be everything to everybody because then you're really nothing, I feel like, right? Does that make sense?
It does. It's funny. I mean, I've been preaching for years about like people don't care about your big verdicts and they don't care about your
No,
big settlements. They don't. And here's the thing. My worry is that some people might hear that as, oh, you're just jealous. No, I'm not. I have plenty of them. I have, and you know what? I've got a very successful firm.
for
You don't
sure.
hear me bragging about it because people don't care about that. They don't connect with it, especially so. Like I came from no money, and I can tell you if I'm posting about that stuff, I guarantee you what they're talking about behind my back is, oh, he like Tyson doesn't remember where he came from. I
Yeah.
guarantee that it's what. But if I instead talk about something I'm doing with my kids, or like there's one most embarrassing post I ever did. It was like my I we dressed up every year for Christmas we have like a little parade we do in our neighborhood that our family puts on, and I'm
Cool.
wearing these tights and like as like Buddy the Elf,
Yeah.
and it's so embarrassing, but I get so many comments about things like that. So it's like that's what they care about. They don't care about your settlements. They don't care about your verdicts. But
They don't
people,
care.
some people just don't. They don't care either. They just want to keep posting them. But I wish they would stop because I think people would like you way more if if you're a little more share more of the personal side and less of the people view it as bragging is what they do.
Yeah, no, but I love that story, and because people resonate with that, like, oh, he's a dad just like me, he's acting silly just like I act silly with my kids, whatever. Like, we're all, can relate to that. But I think we're such a stodgy profession that, like, what are you doing putting that on social media, man? Like your story, like, dressing up as an elf, like, what are you crazy? I'm sorry, but I think that's like the default sentiment. It's like that's too much. Like you're a lawyer. It's like no, I'm a person, and like that's the beauty of being entrepreneurs. We can like do what we want, how we want to do it. It's a beautiful. That's the prize we get for the risks we take. I feel like is the autonomy. But anyway, um, I'm gonna venture to say a couple people listen, follow me on LinkedIn. I'm very heavy on LinkedIn. If I just want to share, if you want to get if you want to get a good results traction on LinkedIn, be real and vulnerable. It's a perfect forum for lawyers to cut through the noise on the big ass settlements and the big ass chest pounding. It's like, no, like be real. I share Tyson. I have like I post on LinkedIn every day for like 4 years, sometimes twice a day. It gives you such track. It's such a great medium to be a real vulnerable lawyer. And for years, I was like, oh, LinkedIn, schminked like that's where you put your resume. Like it's not a no, it's blowing up. But now, like, and different platforms are different. Instagram, I don't get the traction I get like on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is very buttoned up, professional. So when you cut through with a little bit of vulnerability and realness, and giving and sharing your how screwed up you are sometimes and your mistakes, that gets traction, relationships, opportunities. Like this bar association thing I did today, that was because of LinkedIn, relationships on LinkedIn.
Oh, nice. Uh, so I had a funny post where I can't remember what it was. It was Halloween a couple years ago, and I remember I posted it on X and I posted it on LinkedIn, and I think I posted it on Facebook. I got great results on Facebook, great results on X, and then on LinkedIn, it got people hated it.
Really?
It was, I was kind of joking. It was like a joking one about it was something with a jack o' lantern, and I can't remember exactly what the post was about. But I was kind of beating up on insurance defense attorneys, but not like in a mean way. It was like in a joking way.
Yeah.
And holy hell, I got some responses that
Oh,
people were not
wow.
happy with. It was so funny to me how different the responses were by platform. That to me is so fascinating. So I wonder whenever you're messaging, when you're sending out messages, like what I mean is like your message, when you're putting out your message, do you tailor it for the platform that you're using? Like, do you change it for Facebook versus like X or
Really good
Threads or
question.
whatever? Yeah.
No, that's important to be kind of not tone deaf because they're all totally different mediums, totally different. It's like one person analogized, it's like walking to different parties. The LinkedIn party is a little bit more like people wearing suits and like, little again stodgy. Instagram's kind of like party. Facebook maybe a little bit of an older demographic, skewing older, little less party atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
So know what room you're in, but here's something I've learned that's nothing groundbreaking. If something performs well on LinkedIn, I'm definitely putting that bad boy on Instagram, right? Definitely going to make a story, a post, because that's going to get some lift. And a quick SEO thing, right? As AI gets more and more prevalent, you need to be prevalent on social. Like your name has got to be disseminated on social. Your knownness has to be ever increasing, I feel like. So definitely post, be active. But Tyson, there's so many lawyers that are kind of scared of LinkedIn to get real, but I'm so past that. I don't care. If you want to get results on LinkedIn, seek to inspire and not be cheesy, but try to be like, share your failures and how that helped you succeed. Like, people love inspiration because we're all getting kicked in the face all the time. Like, it's nice to hear these stories of getting off the mat and finding some success. But now, to go back to your question a few minutes ago, like vulnerability, authentic marketing is the way. I know that's been hackneyed, it's a trite concept in recent years. I don't think it's ever going to go out of style. I think you really have to um, show up as a person, like who you are, because I think that brings you a better career. You're going to have like clients who are down with you and know who they're dealing with, and they're probably going to give you less problems because they know who you are as a person. You're not just some lawyer. It's less of a transaction, more of a relationship. So I encourage the practitioner, create relationships with your clients. Try to get a little real with them. Show them a silly side of dressing up like an elf. Like, they're all going to remember that stuff. Try to be like not so lawyer like all the time.
Yeah, that's anytime I can not be a lawyer. I always love whenever I get the someone like a client will come in the office and I'm wearing jeans or something
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect you to wear jeans. Like,
Yeah.
well, that's all you're gonna get with me unless we're going to court. So you're not gonna
Yeah.
get
Hope you
anything
like it, buddy.
more. Jeans is as nice as I go. Okay, like I'm wearing like athleisure wear right now is what I'm wearing,
Oh, I'm all
or
about it, man.
shorts is what I'll be wearing otherwise. But I wonder when you wrote Scaling the Wall and you saw your story on paper, did anything surprise you?
Not really. I was scared. I was scared about the reaction. I was concerned what people close to me would think. I was scared nobody would care. But then it's like it wasn't, it was the other way. It was like that moved me. Um, it's like people know who you are then. It's like it breaks down barriers like, oh, I know who that guy is. Early is, messed up just like I am. Like, that's what we're talking about here. It's just being a human being. Yeah, we provide legal services, but like we said at the beginning, this is more just like being real and honest in who you are, like not fronting, like not putting on airs, just being real. I think people connect with that for sure. My career's gotten so much better, man, just being real, authentic.
Do you when you look at the before Chris and the after Chris? And how I'll classify
Yeah,
you,
that's
but
fair.
you may classify it a little bit different. Did if you think about like back about your day, your typical day, and your day now, does it look different?
Yeah, like I'm more relaxed. Like
Well,
I
and so I'll make sure I'm clear about this. I want to make sure is the structure of the day different? Like, do you go home earlier now? Did you spend more time at the office before? Can you talk about that part of it, or is it just strictly a mindset shift?
uh a lot mindset. I think mindset is like the secret sauce to anything worth doing. Like having a good, healthy mindset. And this is a battle for me. It's not like some like Early's got to figure out. No, like always trying to have a healthy, healthy mindset. And but once I had an epiphany about 6 years ago, caveman, fighting fire, that analogy, I got into time management, got into delegation, hiring, so I can have more time with my family, going on vacations, not checking email, not being tethered to the office, being like for me disruptive from the norm for attorneys, right? The more you're different from everyone else, I think the more satisfaction you can have in this career. You know, Dan Kennedy, I've learned a lot from Dan Kennedy, right? He says, whatever the majority is doing, run the other way, sprint the other way,
This,
right?
yeah, this reminds me of a really good. I'm so glad you said what you said because I actually thought you were going to say something different. But when your answer reminds me of a video I saw yesterday, and it was a guy talking about something he had told his daughter, and the whole video is about like self worth, but he told her, okay, take your car. She had an old car. Take your car to the dealership, and I want you to tell them how much it's worth. She comes back crying. She's all upset. They only told me it's worth this, and they said there's a scratch there, and it's got so many miles, and all these things that are bad with it. He said, okay, now I want you to take it to, and I can't remember the other place, the second place where what it was, but she took it there, and they said, they didn't like it. They said it was dinged up and too old, and yada yada yada. And he said, okay, now I want you to go take it one more last place. I want you to take it. There's this old classic car show. I want you to take it down there. And she comes back. She says, "Oh my gosh, Dad, they loved it. It was amazing. This was incredible." They said that yeah, it had some character and all these great things about it. And he was talking about how, well, see, it's not really about you. It's about the room that you're in. Now,
Right.
the way I guess the way this would apply to you, it's not the way your day is structured. It's the way you view your day. And I
Totally.
think that's really interesting about what you said because I thought for sure you were going to say because that's what people focus on is like, okay, you should time block and you should leave at a certain time and you should go do this and you should have a hobby, but the reality is that it's just a shift in your mindset and you change your
That's it.
mindset and all that it doesn't matter what your day looks like.
Yeah, the shift, right? Intentional, just really shifting in a positive direction of like again, Bangladesh, this is what I learned years ago that I've taken with me is that like again, you can be a happy lawyer, but you better be damn sure and clear on I'm willing to do the work, right? To get there. Like what's your destination? Where are you trying to get to? I know where I'm trying to get my firm. I know what I want from my family to get from this business, what I want from family to get from this very crystal clear path. Like I think it's important to have that clarity in like where we're trying to get to and being intentional. I was just talking again with lawyers earlier today. I said, a lot of us, who are working, I don't know, 12-hour days can probably get that work done in 6 hours. Like we're always saying, like, no, I'm, tethered to the office. I can't. No, like bullshit. Like you could get so much done in a day, like by time, like you just said time blocking, being efficient. That's gonna make your life happier, not like working so much. But I think all of us try to kill ourselves and work so freaking hard. Like you don't need to do that anymore. Like that's no longer, what's that expression? The law is a jealous mistress. That's
Yeah.
old school, baby, right? That's not like today. It doesn't need to be that way. We don't need to be that way anymore.
Yeah, it's like that Albert Schweitzer quote, success isn't the key to happiness, happiness is the key to success.
I like
It's
that.
that's a
Love that.
it's a really good quote, something that reminds me of. Okay, so I know we only have a little bit of time left, but I know you don't want to give away too much of the book, but we want to make sure we pass the message on to as many people as possible, right? Is if you could pick one thing, one lesson from the book that people should pick up if they're not able to read the book, right? What's one takeaway you can give them that if they only listen to this part of the episode that you really want them to know?
Heal your pain, like whatever it is, heal it because it's I can tell you I have a PhD in like being weighed down by ugly stuff, trauma, right? Like heal that pain because we all have pain. some different than others. We're all pained, but like, how can you be an advocate for people who are going through pain if you're not dealing with your own stuff? How can you be a healthy advocate, right, for your clients if you're not processing what you got to get through? Some of it have much worse than me, much more severe, but we're all we're all similar in that we have to heal that pain. That to me really was like an epiphany that got me going in a much better direction.
Chris, thank you so much. The
No,
book
thank
is
you.
Scaling the Wall, One Man's Journey of Healing Childhood Trauma to Find Fulfillment and Success. I'm assuming people can find it on Amazon.
Yeah, but look, I legit would love to send it to you for free. Can I get my cell number? Is that okay or no?
You can, I was going to say, if people want to reach out to you, give chrisearly.com and give out your cell phone.
Yes. Famous last words. My cell, I'd love you to text me. If you send me a text, give me your name and your best mailing address, I'll send a copy to you. Uh, I've sent out 200 copies this year. I love the work. I'm proud of the work, and I want to share the work. Hopefully, it inspires someone to maybe write their book and help others and share it with someone who could benefit from the book. Text me, call me. My cell is 617-956-2501, 617-956-2501. I love these conversations. Your podcast is freaking awesome. I'm on a lot of podcasts. You're a very good interviewer, a very good host. You do a very nice job. I want to tell you that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot. That really does
Oh,
mean a lot.
legit.
Yeah.
You're good. So keep doing your good work, man. It's awesome.
Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.